Sooze, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
And you know what's really funny? It actually sounds just like this amp because
really
it
does,
is.
yeah.
It kind of is like a capture of this amp. I use that term loosely because that's a term we use. You know, profiling, capturing, tone matching. What do these things mean?
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So we've just released a bunch, we've just released, by the time you go to the website, there's hopefully a bunch of things up from the Tone Junkie collection for the Helix now. A bunch of amps that we've captured and put on there. There'll be at least 2 or 3, and it depends if I get them all up or not. But I've been working on these, and we are attempting to take some of my amps, that are my favorite amps, and get this to sound like them.
Right.
And so I'll tell you, I gotta take my hat off to our friends at Worship Tutorials, because here's what really happened. I have been working on Helix stuff, and I built a bunch of Helix stuff,
Right.
and it was supposed to come out a couple weeks ago. And Brian at Worship Tutorials has been making tone-matched Helix stuff, right? And now David Hislop is making tone-matched Helix stuff, right? And truthfully, I don't know if they're doing the same exact thing. I don't know, but I'll tell you what I'm doing. So we were going back and forth, and Brian sent me a tone-matched preset he had done. And I immediately said, holy cow, this sounds like the amp.
Okay.
I don't want to release what I was about to put out.
Right, yeah.
So then I started trying to figure out how to do this, and I've come across kind of what I'm doing, which is capturing these using EQ match software to basically what I'm trying to do is dial something in that sounds very close. This is the science of how I built these, right? I'm dialing in the Princeton that sounds very close to my Princeton. I'm using IRs that are from this amp, or an amp with the same speaker, in some cases. I'm then taking that, trying to dial it in as close as I can, and then using the EQ match software to come up with a corrective EQ, and then apply that to the IR. Boom, it's in there. Bring that to the Helix, and this sounds like this.
Gotcha.
And so you use this as a reference.
So you've done IRs of these before, but these are new IRs with EQ.
Yeah, they're new IRs with the EQ, with the sort of corrective EQ. And I say corrective because, is there something wrong with these models? I'll be honest with you, maybe not. I don't think all the models in the Helix are created equal. I think some are vastly more accurate than others, especially the newer ones. I think the Prince one sounds phenomenal. There's some other ones that I think are just a little not quite as magical. But overall, there are some nuances to the amp tone that I've never been able to dial in. For example, I've always noticed that sometimes I would go, it doesn't quite have the open air presence that exists in when you have an amp mic'd up. And so I could hear we need more presence. So I've got the option of the presence control right here, but that's doing one thing. That has some band that is going up and has a certain cue that I have no control over. I myself can go in, can take an IR and apply an EQ to it to add presence. And I'll talk more about one thing I did there. But that also uniformly, the human ear, I'm not able to pick out. I can pick out frequencies in a guitar tone.
Right.
I can tell you if you've got a Klon style pedal on and why that sounds different than a tube screamer, and what is the frequencies of chime, what people are talking about, chime and stuff. But I can't listen to something that's lacking presence and say, you need 6 dB of 10K, 4 dB of 11K, you need to dip at 11.5K. You need to come up 8 dB at 12K.
Right, yeah.
That's the thing that is what I think is the magic of this entire concept of let's make an IR that matches a reference source. So I'm not going to speak for those guys. I know they're doing kind of some different things from what I know. But I'm just going to say from a technical perspective, the idea here, I think for what everybody's doing, is the IR is making a corrective EQ curve that is far more complicated than I could arrive at myself by moving around a 16 or 32, point EQ. And that is the real magic.
So these IRs are specifically for the Helix, like they're because
specifically,
of what it's doing.
Okay. Specifically to take so that this preset sounds like this amp.
Gotcha.
So that this preset sounds like this amp. And so the two amps I want to talk about and just show a little bit are my 65 Princeton and the this is the what is this? This is a 68 Marshall Plexi, but it's a Super PA. So it's a 4-input Marshall head. And I just released it for the Kemper. This came out a while ago for the Kemper, and I've released this too. Now, what's really cool, I'll just throw this out. I'm putting out packs for the Helix. Nice. So, for example, I'm trying to capture all the channels. So this has 5 presets. One for every channel, plus jumpered, and there's multiple IRs in there to match each channel. This has 2, because there's this one, and then I did a cool thing. Let me show you what I did. Sooze, play this one more time on a clean Strat, and then I'm going to make a change, and I'll tell you how what I did there. What do you think?
I think it's incredible. It's the best I've ever heard the Helix.
Okay, I'm going to say that too. It's the best I've ever heard the Helix. Sure. And that was how I felt listening to the stuff that Brian and Brad sent me. I immediately went, this is it's different. This is what I'm missing. Yeah. And it's not that I thought my patches sound good, and I might still release 1 or 2 for free because they do sound good, but there is a complexity that I could not get to. A realism that I could not get to because I'm used to hearing amps mic'd up. I'm used to capturing them with the Kemper. I'm used to my miking. Right. And so trying to get my mic placement, even with the simulated mic placements, it's just not, I couldn't get there. Yeah. And so I did a very cool thing though. See, I used to have a silver face one of these, and it was always brighter. And this thing doesn't have a bright switch. But I have, in case people don't know, I own every black face Fender. I really do. Are they not over there?
That's tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg. I happen to own every amp from 1965, and I will tell you, they all sound very different. I'll try to tone match them all. But some of them have bright switches, and I really like that, and some of them don't. This one doesn't have a bright switch, and so if you wanted a bright switch, I've always told people, go and get a Silverface version. Right. Then you have like this amp with a bright switch. But old HW comes to the rescue. Let me look at my Helix upside down here. Boom! TJ Princess Bright. They heard the old one. Now here's the brighter one. It's just brighter.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's just a nice like 4 dB boost around 5K with a Q around like 0.7. If you want to make it yourself, you can. You know?
That's killer, man.
It's cool. It's a really great way to get this amp, but then just a little different voice, as though it had a bright switch or as though it were the 70s version, you know, or something like that. Here is a, let's try like a little overdrive thing. How's the overdrive sound? I'm just gonna make a little claim here. You could convince me that that's an amp mic'd up in the next room that I'm listening to. We're obviously listening through a speaker right here. We're monitoring in the room. The sound is going direct to them. Right. They're hearing it. But you could convince me that that's an amp mic'd up in another room. You could convince me that that's a Kemper.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I'm excited about that.
I'm gonna. I mean, it is exciting. Okay, I'm gonna show you one other amp, and here is here's a Marshall. Why don't we get the best sounding guitar ever? sounds that sounds
Yep.
that sounds a lot like this amp.
Right.
Obviously, there's one big difference. We're listening through a little 112,
Yeah.
and there's a if it were in the 412 in this room, it would that's something there. But that sounds it really does sound like. I mean, I could believe I was just listening to the Kemper profiles I made of that amp.
Totally. Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's
Which
very.
we really haven't said in the past that Helix has.
No,
gotten that
that's
close.
not been my opinion.
Yeah.
That's not been my opinion. Not that I thought it sounded bad. I just, if you have the real thing right there, and then you try to build that same sound, you're gonna tear it apart based on how it sounds different, not necessarily worse.
Yeah.
And I have at times felt like, how do I get this sort of airiness out? And this really does it. And maybe, I don't know. But having a source that I want to reference, that I think this is what I'm after, and allowing technology to do that for me is really, to me, a game changer. Yeah. So
I got a voicemail at 10:30 at night from you. I was sleeping. And it was, a minute and a half of you basically saying, I can't believe what's happening with the Helix. So I got up the next day. I was like, oh boy,
I know people
this
are
going to be good.
I know people are going to think I'm just hyping this because
no,
my Helix stuff. But
it's a real
look, I've been Mr. Kemper for a long time. Don't think I'm not gonna take shit from Kemper guys. Okay, I honestly, the Kemper audience that I have is so much bigger than anybody who watches this with a Helix that I'm gonna get way more flack for saying this than I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So, but hey, that's just the way it is. I'm just a man on a mission to profile, capture, tone match, shoot, IR the world. I don't know what to even call it anymore. But these things just sound freaking tremendous. If you want to hear more how they sound and the sounds that are in the packs, in the Helix packs, you can go check them out. They're available for HX Stomp as well. Pod Go, I don't know. I'll get working. I don't own a Pod Go. I've never wanted to, but now I'll buy one for that. So I'm just gonna say, wow.
Yeah, great job with these. These are killer.
They sound great, and to me, I know this is becoming like people are probably thinking like, what the worship tutorials, David Hislop, now Tone Junkie, all in like 2 weeks. They're tone matching, EQ matching, capturing amps in the heel. What is this? Is this some sort of conspiracy? No, it's the Mount Rushmore of Helix tone coming at you in your face. You better watch out, because the amount of really cool tones that are like hitting this world at this moment is insane.
Yeah, Helix users rejoice.
I think I'm gonna listen. I've never entertained this. I'm gonna use this on a Sunday morning. I'm gonna match my amp that I play every Sunday morning. I'm gonna match the effects the best I can, because the effects are different in the Kemper hit. I'm gonna match them. Delay's delay. Reverbs are all a little different. I'm gonna match them. I'm gonna play, and I'm gonna do a video on. Can I actually be 100% happy with this? Yeah. I've never thought it was even possible in time. That's just me. Yeah. I have my Kemper. I'm super happy with it. I've never thought I can get my AC30 on this. No amount of tweaking has ever gotten in my AC30. It sounded good, but it just hasn't been my mission. Right. Until right now.
Excited to hear that.
Me too, man. Look at this thing. I need to invest in a Helix stand. Can someone
holding it is not going to work.
We got to figure out how we're going to do it. We're going to have to get the camera to point down.
Yeah.
We used to do that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave you. Sooze, play us out. How about, I don't know. You want to do something rocking?
Yeah.
You're already on the rock one.
For sure.
Oh, I got it. Let's do an ambient thing. And then I'll tell you and I'll switch to the rock thing.
I'm sure I'll hear it.
I've been HW.
I've been Sooze.
Dude, it sounds like the amp. It sounds like the amp.
Yeah. No, for sure. And the cleanup.
I know.
at the end.
I know. But you know what that is? That is the cleanup is like we've said this before in so many videos. The cleanup is the amps get cleaner. Like when you hit a note and the thing goes down, amps they clean up as the note decays. And that isn't like you have to have the right presence for that to happen because brighter sounds cleaner to us. So brighter cleans up better because we can sort of hear the high-end frequencies and it tricks our ear. Dark, mid-rangey always feels dirtier. And that's
right.
So like when you don't have that presence, like you know what I mean? It's